TopMedTalk.
Welcome to TopMedTalk, the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, evidence-based perioperative medicine. Stand by for a healthy conversation. But first, the 2026 International Practicum on Cardiopulmonary Exercise Testing will be held from September the 16th to the 18th of this year. It is organised by EBPOM, the International Perioperative Testing and Training Society. Come and join us at this premier educational event designed for clinicians, scientists and healthcare professionals interested in sport, exercise and perioperative medicine. Check out ebpom.org for the best prices and information now. That's ebpom.org. And remember, this is an International Perioperative Testing and Training Society accredited event. So when you attend, you can get your EBPOM accreditation showing that you are a practitioner who has reached a high standardized level of competence in performing and interpreting cardiopulmonary exercise testing for patients preparing for major surgery. Check out ebpom.org now.
Welcome to TopMedTalk. I'm Andy Cumpstey and I'm here at the EBPOM World Congress in London. That's the Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine World Congress. And I'm delighted to be joined by a very special guest who's come a long way, I think, to see us to talk about a new research journal.
Great, thanks, Andy. I'm Amy Slogrove. I'm the new editor-in-chief for the Lancet Surgery and Anaesthesiology. I'm not a surgeon or an anaesthetist. I'm actually a pediatrician and epidemiologist by background. And I'm here actually from South Africa in London for the week, and it just worked out well to be able to be at EBPOM as well, which is fantastic.
Let's start right at the very beginning then. So for our listeners listening from all around the world who may or may not have heard of the Lancet Surgery and Anaesthesiology, why the journal? Why did the Lancet suddenly feel the need to branch into the perioperative space, and what's the vision?
Yeah, so we are the 30th journal of the Lancet Group. The original Lancet is more than 200 years old, and over the last 20 years or so, there's been sort of an expanding portfolio of specialty journals. And I think they've really taken a long time to get to a perioperative surgery and anesthesiology journal. Across the Lancet Group journals, I think, really outstanding surgical anesthesiology and now increasingly perioperative work has been published. But I think it's really exciting to have a dedicated space now that clearly is wanting to bring those two disciplines quite clearly together and to really do justice to the whole perioperative space. So we will be launching publicly to the world on the 20th of July, when people will then be able to find our website and be able to start submitting papers to us for consideration. And we're hoping to have a first issue out at the beginning of 2027. And really, to go on to sort of the aims and sort of vision for the journal, we really want to see ourselves as a publishing partner and ally to the surgical and anesthesiology communities. I think so often journals and editors can be seen as gatekeepers to research and to science. We see ourselves quite differently within the Lancet Group, and as editors, I think, we really want to play a supportive role, play a collaborative role. We see ourselves as collaborators and sort of part of that research journey, really helping to safeguard the scientific knowledge base and to support researchers to sort of further elevate their already good research to another level.
You said you're a pediatrician, you're not a surgeon or anaesthetist. So how do you become the person involved with this journal, and what different spin or slant does that give you over the majority of other journals in this space, which are led by someone in that
specialty? Yes. Yeah. So I think it's, not completely unique to the Lancet Group, but there are other journal groups that follow the same model. But I joined the Lancet Group actually 3 years ago as a senior editor for the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health. And that made sense as a pediatrician. It is very interesting that my fellow editor colleagues were largely scientists, mostly PhD basic science or public health or even social sciences. And what that brings is in some ways an objectivity. And our day-to-day, sort of the foundations of our day-to-day work is really about the research integrity, the research rigor and methods, and then the ethics and publishing ethics of the work. And so I think in some ways that brings a lot of objectivity. We aren't the clinical experts. We aren't wedded to certain particular areas of interest. And so we do then rely on our clinical peer reviewers to give us that insight into the clinical relevance, the nuance that needs to be taken into consideration. Confounding is always an issue. And so we do rely on our clinical review, peer reviewer experts to bring that. But I think that the first step for us is always that quality, the research integrity, the quality of the research, and the ethics with which the research has been conducted. And that's sort of our first level of appraisal in deciding whether we're going to pursue a paper for peer review. And what is also interesting is maybe to tell you sort of a little bit more about our team. So it's not just me. I'm fortunate to be the editor-in-chief, but I've got two wonderful editors with me, Callum Davidson, who's the deputy editor, and Amy Ramgalam as the senior editor. Callum comes from the Lancet Weekly. He led their metabolic and GLP-1RA trial portfolio, so comes with a lot of experience there. Has a PhD in cardiovascular physiology, so from the anesthetics perspective, has that basic science knowledge. And Amy Ramgalam was with the Lancet Healthy Longevity, has a statistics-based master's in genetics, so also really, good grounding in research methods and analysis. And there are three of us that are full-time. This is what we do, 40 plus hours a week are dedicated to this journal, which is a very privileged position to be in. So, largely journals are relying on the volunteer sort of work of academics that are doing it as a service to their community. So this is our focus. We're here to really be able to support authors and reviewers in that process of evaluating and appraising the science and putting out in a trustworthy way to the community.
It's exciting for the Lancet, I hope, but also exciting for us as a specialty. So you said you're going live on the 20th of July. So by the time this podcast is released, you will be live.
Yes.
So how would people submit to you, and what process would they expect their submission to go through once it's been sent in?
Sure. People can find us at thelancet.com/surgery. Just for simplicity, it's only surgery and not anesthesiology.
We won't take it personally. Don't worry. We're used to it. Yeah.
We're paying a lot of attention to doing justice to the whole community. But they can find us at lancet.com/surgery. There, people will be able to find what types of articles we will be publishing, the instructions to be able to follow to prepare papers, and then the link to our editorial manager to be able to submit papers. So, it might be helpful for listeners to know we will actually still be a fairly small journal, so a monthly issue with only 4 original research papers published a month and 2 what we call non-original research, so that's reviews, personal views, those kind of things, as well as a handful of shorter comments. And we are endeavoring to do justice to the breadth of surgery and anesthesiology and perioperative medicine at large. Sort of in our consideration is first, as I said, quality, research integrity, the scientific rigor of the work. But then it is also doing justice to that spread, not being dominated by one specific specialty. And so we might be inundated with good work from one particular area that we just won't, be able to publish all, because we want to have that representation of the fields that we are serving. But what people can expect after they've submitted a paper is that we do endeavor within sort of 3 to 5 days to give an initial decision on whether we will pursue it through peer review or whether we think it's better, placed elsewhere. What is also maybe interesting for people to know is that across the Lancet group, the journals work very closely together. Some people, wonder about choosing which Lancet journal to submit their paper to. And you can't really go wrong in a way. We communicate a lot amongst the editors. We'll share papers and try and find a home within the group for the good research that comes in, even if it's not something that we might be able to publish. Similarly, we will see and be referred papers as such from my other colleagues from Lancet Gastroenterology, Lancet Global Health, from the main Lancet journal. And then going through peer review, we always try within 4 to 5 weeks to have a decision then after peer review for those papers that we've pursued through peer review. We always have a statistical reviewer and 3 clinical reviewers on our original research papers. And so even if we decide then maybe that this isn't a paper that fits for us, we usually try to really provide helpful information back to the authors in terms of what could be strengthened further in their papers. And we hope that that's a valuable process for people to go through.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the 3 clinical reviewers, which is great.
Yeah.
How, I guess some of those will already be in the Lancet system for reviewing for other Lancet journals, but will there be opportunity for other people to come on board? And if so, how should people put themselves forward for that role?
Yeah, sure. So what's quite interesting is we don't have editorial boards like other journals do. We have an international advisory board that is purely just advisory. and helping us to figure out what is important in the field. And we don't use them necessarily for peer reviewing. We actually find people through Scopus or through PubMed. So yeah, again, we spend a fair amount of time trying to be thoughtful, not inundating busy clinicians and academics with reviewer requests, being thoughtful, trying to identify people that have the appropriate set of expertise. So really, if people are published and out there and their papers are, well, they will be in Scopus and will be in PubMed, we will be able to invite them. But they certainly also can register as a reviewer. And that would happen by going to our editorial manager. Send us an email to our editorial inbox, which is again surgery@lancet.com. And our editorial assistant can make sure that they are registered and findable in the system. Yeah.
And what publishing model will you be using? Is it the hybrid, open access?
It's hybrid, subscription hybrid. Yeah. So this is, I know a lot of people have concerns about publishing models that are not open access. And I think there's pros and cons to both. So we will be subscription, but with the option for open access from studies that are funded by funders that require open access. And we can, at editorial discretion, make certain high priority content, particularly from low and middle income countries, free, which is not exactly the same as open access, but it's in front of the paywall. So the advantages of the subscription model is that the authors don't have to pay. So it's more equitable in terms of authors from all around the world being able to access this platform. Obviously, is a limitation for readers then accessing the published work. There are many various agreements across the world, particularly for low and middle income countries, again, to be able to access the content. What is interesting about this subscription model as well is that's really what allows 3 of us to be full-time editors dedicated to this journal. Open access journals have to publish far more with the same human resources. And so in some ways, I think this was the appropriate fit for this community and this journal, because I think we can really support the surgical and anesthesiology research that we do decide to pursue. We really do pride ourselves in giving really sort of specialist, thoughtful editorial input. It's not just about judging the papers. It's about how can we really elevate this work.
If you're hoping for the first issue to be in early 2027, at what point do you expect to get an impact factor through?
Oh yeah, that's a great question as well. So the impact factor takes a couple of years. So you can get a partial impact factor about 18 months in, but it takes about 3 years to get a full impact factor. In terms of indexing, that's also the other thing that authors take into consideration. So to be indexed on the various databases, we will apply for indexing as soon as we meet all the criteria, and that varies by databases. For PubMed, it's usually about 6 months. You need around about 3 full issues worth of content for them to be willing to appraise you. I think we are fairly certain that we will be indexed. There's a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge within the Lancet group that we're being supported with to do this well. So I hope it's not too much of a risk for people, but we do really need people to be taking that leap of faith. We understand it's a leap of faith in the first couple of months anyway, to take that decision to publish with us or pursue publication with us.
Completely understand it with leap of faith to some, but I presume you've got a vision of what you think you're hoping to be publishing or what your focuses are going to be, or any areas of interest that you really keen for people to submit?
Yeah, so I think, as I said, we want to do justice to all the disciplines. The areas of focus that we really want to pull out amongst the disciplines is work that is enhancing equity and access to surgical care and safe surgical and perioperative outcomes, patient-centered work, which has been really great to see at EBPOM, what a big focus that's been here. We're looking for sort of innovative work that also considers sustainability and resilience within perioperative systems and perioperative care pathways. I think there was so much learned from COVID about the surgical systems and care pathways being sidelined, and how do we sort of prepare for the next pandemic and resilient surgical systems. And then also thinking about sort of the bigger things that our planet is dealing with in terms of sort of climate sustainability aspects to perioperative care, as well as health equity needs for the planet. And Lancet Group journals are always globally focused. We plan to be very internationally inclusive, to be thinking about the important issues around equity, sustainability in services across the globe.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, it sounds like a really exciting project, as I say, for Lancet and also for us at Cumpstey Specialty. I wish you all the best of luck with it. Thank you very much for coming to join us, A, here at EBPOM, and then B, here on TopMedTalk, and hopefully you'll be kind enough to come back in a little bit of time and tell us how it's all going and what some of your top submissions have been and some of your key papers that you're publishing?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Andy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity and thanks for the support.
Brilliant. Thank you. And as always, you can find this episode and all other episodes through our website, through every podcaster of choice. We're on all the main social media channels. If you do find us on social media, and that's YouTube, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of them, please do hit like, hit subscribe. It really does make a difference to us at this end. And of course, last but not least, a huge thank you to our fantastic sponsors that keep us free and open access around the world. And this year, that's BD Advanced Patient Monitoring and GE Healthcare. We'll see you next time.
TopMedTalk.
And remember, the 2026 International Practicum on Cardiopulmonary Exercise Testing will be held from September the 16th to the 18th of this year. Come and join us at this premier educational event designed for clinicians, scientists and healthcare professionals interested in sport, exercise and perioperative medicine. Check out ebpom.org for the best prices and information now. That's ebpom.org.